Good evening, everyone. The hour of 5:30 having arrived, I'll call this special meeting of council to order for July 15th, 2021. And before we get started with the roll call, I'll entertain a motion to allow Councilor Hicks and Deputy Mayor Schultz to participate remotely in this meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Motion has been made. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Welcome, gentlemen. And now, Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Mr. Cransey? Ms. Winston?
Here.
Mr. Hicks?
Here.
Ms. Landis?
Here.
Mr. Schultz? Mayor Scott?
Here.
And Mr. Stubbe?
Here.
All right. I don't see anyone in our audience, any citizens that would like to be heard this evening. Joyce, anyone on the Zoom seeking recognition?
There is not. Mayor Scott.
All right. Moving on to our regular agenda, economic development.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have one item this evening. I move that Borough Council adopt an ordinance amending chapters 78 to 23 of the Code of the Borough of Carlisle that would allow limited consumption of alcoholic beverages by open containers on sidewalks, amending the definition of open sidewalk cafes and allowing expansion of open sidewalk cafes to allow use of sidewalks on adjoining properties.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. Motion and second have been properly made. I'd just like to recognize our solicitor, Keith Brenneman, for a brief discussion on what we're doing tonight and what we're not doing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to make it clear as to what the ordinance does do and what it doesn't do. It is not a cocktail to go ordinance. The borough does not have any authority to regulate or approve that type of use for someone that has a liquor license. In fact, no one has that authority except the legislature. What it does do, it addresses open containers, which is an item that every municipality can regulate, allows it in the C1 district. And secondly, it assists those taverns, restaurants, bars, and distilleries in the C1 when they go to the LCB and make an application to extend their liquor license premises. And your ordinance allows that to happen on both sides of the property where the restaurant, tavern, bar is located. So I want to make sure that's clear. You are doing what you can do to assist them in their efforts in the C1 district, but you of course cannot and you are not allowing cocktails to go because you can't.
Thank you very much for that summary, Mr. Solicitor. And I believe we'll be attempting to address that first part with the legislature under Mayor's report, so stay tuned for that. Any further discussion on this item?
Yes, I just state that I fully support us passing this ordinance, and obviously feel the past year has shown that these measures have been successful. In addition to that, similar to what Councilor Hicks brought up at the meeting when we advertised this ordinance, I feel that eventually council should consider implementing this borough-wide, essentially lifting our open container restrictions throughout the borough. State law already provides penalties for the offenses of public drunkenness and disorderly conduct, which to me are the biggest concerns with allowing public consumption of alcohol. Because of these state laws, having a local ordinance prohibiting open containers of alcohol and public consumption of alcohol seems unnecessary. I do, however, acknowledge that that is a future conversation for us to have. At this point, I'd simply request that we keep this in the back of our minds and revisit it maybe in the summer of 2022 after we've had another full year to evaluate this new ordinance.
And I will just concur with Councilor Stubbe's comments, and I've brought this up before, and so again, it's something to look at in the future, but some of our most widely attended events in the borough have been on Dickinson's campus, and that is because they have more lenient alcohol usage because it's a private location. So Bluegrass on the Grass and the symphony that happens it's usually at Summer Fair, people do bring their own drinks and enjoy it in a healthy way, and adults and children and everyone are there, but it's all just a comfortable setting to enjoy something with the community. So I do think that's a reasonable thing that we can look at in the future. But I do appreciate our solicitor for doing this so quickly for us so that we can address the concern at hand right now with our downtown businesses. Thank you.
Thank you both for your comments. Any further discussion on the matter? All right, this requires a roll call vote. Madam Secretary, if you please.
Ms. Fulham Winston,
Yes. Aye.
Mr. Hicks,
Aye.
Ms. Landis,
Aye.
Mr. Schultz,
Aye.
Mr. Stubbe,
Aye.
and Mayor Scott.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Now on to Mayor's report. The chair recognizes Councilor Stubbe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we had advertised the ordinance that we just enacted, I brought up potentially sending a letter to our state legislators in support of legislation that is already out there to allow for cocktails to go permanently. I think, as many people know, that was a temporary measure that the state allowed in tandem with the pandemic disaster declaration that basically went to the wayside when that declaration was lifted. There is a House Bill 1154, that would make that measure permanent. At this point, that legislation passed the House. It went to the Senate. There was changes in the Senate. It went back to the House because of disagreement between the House, the governor, of the Senate. Those provisions were removed, and then it passed again in the House. So that legislation is now before the Senate. They recessed after passing the budget without taking action on that. At this point, if they'd passed the bill before them, it'd go to the governor's desk, and he signaled his support for it. So essentially, I have drafted a letter essentially for us to send to our state senator requesting his support in pushing the Senate to reconvene and pass this legislation to get it to the governor's desk. Obviously, cocktails to go are going to be most useful to businesses in Carlisle as well as throughout the state over the summer months when it's nice out. So it makes sense for the state Senate to take action on this now as opposed to waiting until the fall. So with that, I'll make a motion that council issue a letter in support of House Bill 1154, printer's number 1992, cocktails to go.
Mrs. Stubbe makes a motion to support House Bill 1154. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. All right. Thank you, Councilor Stubbe. Thank you, everyone. Community planning and smart growth.
I think I'll take this for Councilor Crampsey since he's not present. Before we get to the motion, I didn't know if, Mark, if you had comments on this. I'll bounce it over to you.
Sure. Very quickly, last March, Borough Council conditionally approved lots 5, 7, and 8 of the IAC development. That was a approval that combined all 3 of those lots as one project. Since the approval, the developer has come back to Borough staff, requested that the project be divided into 3 separate steps, similar to what occurred with lots 4 and 6. So what's before you this evening is to conditionally approve or reapprove final land development plan for lot 5 that addresses the first of the 3 phases. Lot 5 being located between B Street, Carlisle Spring Road, and C Street that will have a proposed apartment complex. This will allow the development to proceed, and once Lot 5 is done, then I would suspect that they would come back to us again asking for approval for Lot 7 and then Lot 8.
All right. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I think I still need to actually make the
Oh,
motion.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes,
I'll
that works.
yeah, I'll move that Borough Council reapprove a final land development plan for Lot 5, Northside Village, prepared by BL Companies. Original date October 3rd, 2019. Latest revision May 25th, 2021. Subject to the applicant's acceptance and satisfactory resolution of the conditions listed in Council's March 12th, 2020 agenda, and as supplemented by the following. a revised developers guarantee improvement agreement between the borough and the property owner and Northside Village LLC for the full and satisfactory completion of all required Lot 5 on-site and adjacent B Street and C Street public right-of-way improvements, subject to the review of the borough solicitor. A revised stormwater operation and maintenance agreement between the borough and the property owner and Northside Village LLC for the full satisfactory installation, access, and maintenance of Lot 5, subject to the review of the borough engineer and solicitor. The receipt of sufficient financial security in the form of a letter of credit or insurance bond satisfactory to the borough engineer and solicitor, and a revised schedule of construction completion, which shall be inserted into all Lot 5 agreements.
Now we have a motion on the table. Councilor Stubbe motions to reapprove a final land development plan for Lot 5 Northside Village. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. And I think that's it for you.
So, yes, Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report.
All right. Any new business to come before council?
I have no new business, but I just want to note for the record before you adjourn this meeting that Mr. Hicks and Mr. Schultz are absent because of work obligations, physically absent. They're participating remotely. Thank you.
Thanks for placing that on the record. And also, I'd like to enter into the record a letter that we received from the Carlisle Chamber expressing their support for our amendment to Chapter 78 and 223 to allow limited consumption of alcoholic beverages by open container on sidewalks, amending the definition of open sidewalk cafes and allowing the expansion of open sidewalk cafes to allow the use of sidewalks on adjoining properties. We received this letter today, July 15th, 2021. Yes, Glenn. Yes, you may. Name and address for the record. You know the drill.
Thank you very, very much, Glenn White. I'm the Executive Director of the Downtown Carlisle Association, 1316 East Chocolate, and offices here in the Borough Hall, 53 West South Street. That's exactly why I'm here to let you know how imperatively important and the amazing forethought that Council had, especially last year during COVID. I think that's a wonderful thing. You keep on the road providing a fertile ground for businesses to come here and to prosper. We were just talking just last night at a Downtown Carlisle Association Borough meeting as to how many things you have done to make sure that we have survived this crisis, and this is just one of them. The open container law is something that's actually lauded and really envied across the Commonwealth. And we really encourage you to pass this, and I'm here to carry the word of every single downtown store and restaurant that this has really been a very big help getting us through this. So thank you very, very much. We greatly appreciate everything you have done to help us, to guide us, Borough Council, Borough Management's Office, everybody. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Glenn, so much. We appreciate the support as well. Anything else from anyone on the dais? Staff, anything? Okay. Joel, Sean, anything for the record? Good of the order?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. All right.
Nothing. Just greetings from Silver Spring.
All right. How's the weather?
Hot and soupy.
Okay. All right. There being no further business for this council, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.